Good morning, this is Sandra. I'm going to be showing you how to do LilyEllisStitchery.com, the free FPP called Sugar Baby. It's a hummingbird. This is the instruction sheet and has some notes, variations, tips, and then it comes in several sizes. They're free to print. I am going to do the 5-inch right hand facing one today. I haven't cut the pieces out yet, so it's like, let's get started. This is a rotary cutter that has been used on this foundation paper piecing. You just cut near, you don't have to be right on. It's like, because you're going to do some more trimming as you go. Because we're going to trim up to the dotted line. I started this yesterday without going back looking at my video. I just posted it. So I'm going to remake and delete. Or I might just keep it there as lesson learned. But it's like, don't need that piece. And if you think you're going to lose the pieces, don't worry. It's like, you don't have to cut them all right away. But this is what we're going to be doing. So I want piece A. I'm going to set the pieces up backwards, but E, F, D, A, B, that's like, if I can get the pieces in there right. Okay, it's like, so to get started, this is background, and this is a black. And then on piece B, you have the head. I can show you from a piece I did yesterday. So this piece is this one here. I'm choosing to do a dark one there and a dark one here. And then a light one here. I'm going to stick, there's background, background, background. So background, 1, 2, 3, 4. This is gray, is what I'm going to do again. The background is 1, this piece, this piece. There's a little piece right here that you can barely see, background. This one and this one. Down here in the pattern is this little piece right here. So I wrote on there, L for the lavender. I'm going to take this wing here, color, and extend it here. And then this is just repeated stair-step gray. I didn't get any further than that, so this is background. And this is a lavender, going by the picture here. Lavender, lavender, and then this tail piece I'm going to put back in dark. Background, background, background. Then this here piece is his number 3 is his chest color, and I'm choosing to do a pink. This, the rest of his breast, the other part's done in gray, so this will be done in gray. This little tiny piece down here is a foot, and that's another little black. And then all the rest of the pieces are background. Background, background, background. So let's get started. First, on the A piece, we know we need a strip of black for the beak. So I just cut a 1 by 2.5 inch strip. So we're going to pick up this piece. This is number 2. And we need a bigger that covers all of this in the background. So it'll fit on this 2.5 inch strip. So I'm just going to take and cut off a piece. Right sides. There's a right and a wrong in this. Right side's down. I'm just going to lay this on here and put a flathead pin so when I need to fold, it's easier to do. So I'm going to go ahead and move these pieces out of the way, hopefully in a safe zone. So now I'm getting my folding cardstock, my ruler that I use for cutting, and my rotary cutter. So I need to fold on this line right here along the 1. So I'm going to press, trying to remember which way is the best for the camera. I'm going to press on that one little line. And we call this the foot of the mountain, because that's where you're going to trim every single time, the foot of the mountain. Double check to make sure right side's away. It is, because I'm using a tone on tone for my background. Throw that one in the garbage. Now I'm going to pick up the black, because that's what I chose to do his beak in. I guess it's a beak. I'm not sure what it's called. Open it back up. I'm going to start out here at the dotted line, and I'm going to sew this point. It goes right there, so I could sew up in there a couple stitches. Change your stitch length to 1.5 is what I'm changing mine to. Some people do 1.2, some do 1.8. It's just everybody's personal preference. Oops. Grab the thread, trim. And then little teeny tiny stitches. Put your face side down of your paper. Take where you just sewed, finger press. Turn it back right side over. Take your, whatever you're doing with your folding, rather it be the edge of your add a quarter, put it on the next line. Press that paper, trim at the foot of the mountain. Open it back up. I need another background piece. Means I have a bunch of this strip left over from doing another quilt. I'm doing the Terry hunk of material. So now I'm going to place right sides together. You can see you got very little black to hold on to. But it's got the 1/4 inch in there, believe it or not. So I'm taking that black, lining it up. Now I'm going to start out here at the dotted line again. Go up into here, clear out to here. dotted line to dotted line. And then that one piece will be just, it'll be sewed. We have to trim. Okay, I'm out to the edge. Right side's down. Trying to keep my hand out of the screen. Finger press. See, now here you can see a little bit of the black because of the white background. You can go trim that off again if you would like, because it is a darker. So I'm just going to grab my scissors and trim that little black off because I use such a lighter background. You don't have to, because I think with time and the batting it's not going to show. It's all finger pressed. Open up the paper and turn your iron on, and you can trim around all the dotted line. You remove the pin because this piece will be done. I just wasted fabric because I trimmed the wrong way first. Should have trimmed this one because I could have used those pieces possibly again if it would have been left long. Make sure when you go to trim that the pieces are all laid out open. Almost took my finger. And then this tip. Clean up the table a little. And then there's another tip here. I'm not too worried if I'm not right on that dotted, because I'd rather have a little something to trim extra if I have to, or a little more to hold. No one's going to be underneath looking at your work. So now that the iron's hot, press that and grab pattern number B. With pattern B, number 1 is that little teeny tiny black. I mean teeny tiny black. Some people would put a spot of glue, but every time I do, it sticks to the paper. So there's the line. So I'm going to put a pin just this side of that. It'll start like in number 6 and go into number 3, because I want to be able to press that little tiny line open with the fold back. Because that's how it is. It's very, 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 very little. So I need color number 2, which is my darkest color, is what I've decided. And my darkest color is this one. It's a batik. So no matter what, there's not a right or a wrong, but on this one, you would put right sides together, trim at the bottom of the hill, the foot of the hill is where you trim. Place this up here, which you know I have more than enough because it's only this little tiny space. So I'm going to go ahead and do piece number 2, so that little tiny line. Don't let the string pop back up. It would have been shorter to just rethread the needle. and try to catch it. We all know how our machines act. That's 3 little tiny stitches beyond. If it has some machines have a good pullback on thread. Same thing, face down, where I just sewed. I want a finger press right there. Flip it back over. See where number 3 is. 1, 2, 2, 3. So now it says I need to do the light color. Well, I'm going to go ahead and make this not so much in my way. I'm going to trim out to the dotted line. Put that back up to use in a little bit. Now it says I need the light color. Actually, it says I need the lavender. So this is my lavender I've chosen. But I have to reposition because I need to fold right there on that line. So now I'm just going to put it like right there, over there. Still getting the black, and go a little bit further out. I just want to make sure none of the pieces fall back. So going on that line. Oops. Supposed to use the thin cardstock or credit card or the other end of the add a quarter. Foot of the mountain. And trim. Little scraps. It says I need my lavender, which is right here. This is a grunge. I thought it'd give it some nice texture. Now I'm going to sew this little line right there to there. 2 beyond and out to the dotted line. Start 2 before it. Out off the edge. Seems to be snagging some. There's some pull on the thread. Make sure I didn't have an extra wrap around somewhere. Okay, our usual, right side's down, where we just sewed. Finger press. Hold that material in place, flip back over, and I'm going to trim it out to the dotted line just to get rid of some of the excess. Because number 4, 1, 2, 3, is this little gray in the corner. So it's like I can move the pin, and we do the pressing with the cardstock between line 3 and 4 number piece, and I have it written in gray. If I press this right now, because I used my friction pin, all my colors would disappear. So if you're going to write your colors on, make sure to use something that isn't going to heat erase. Finger pressing to me is fine. So now I need a little bit of gray, which I didn't have any leftover pieces. So I'm going to take this bigger piece. Gonna make it a little smaller. Set that back over there. Take this right here, right sides together. This is a gray marble. I also think it gives depth in the texture. So I'm going to go dotted line to dotted line, securing the edges. You don't have to, as long as you do a few beyond and a few after. I just go out to the edge because it's like, that's where, if we were sewing anything else, we would do. Okay, I'm going to remove my pin, face side down, where you can see where you just sewed. Finger press. Make sure that when you're flipping this back over, that it stays out extended. I'm going to trim off that bigger piece. Set it aside. Don't need it right this minute. Now it says we're going to do number 5, which is a background material. So release these stitches. And when I release these stitches, because they're all the way up there, I just tear right down that edge. It's like, it's releasing it, but it's not going anywhere. So then you take that little tiny piece right here. That's your number 5 spot. Foot of the hill, trim off to your 1/4 inch. And they need background material, which is very, very little piece needed. So I'm taking this one. Find which is right sides together. Put it up here in your place. I have more than enough. Now I'm going to sew from that dotted line clear out off the edge here. Trim the strings again. Might be an advantage to a thread cutter. Face side down, finger press where I just sewed. I can trim all them off if I want, or I can go up to the next step. Next step, I'm going to go ahead and leave it, is between part number 6, because we just finished 5. So part number 6 is between 3 and the number 6. We have to fold on that line right there. There's a few stitches that need released. Take your folding apparatus. Make sure all your pieces are in the correct position. Lay your folding on there and up over. See, when it pulls up like this, just release another stitch. At the foot of the mountain, we trim 1/4 inch. All these little crumbs go to the garbage. Well, they're not the garbage. So now we need, it says a piece of the dark. This is what I'm using as my dark. It's more than wide enough, so I have no worries. Fold this piece down, set this piece up here on top. Then with your fingers, just pick it up. And now I'm going to go sew 2 beyond, 2 before and 2 beyond. Nope, all the way to the dotted line beyond. Same thing, we will face down. Sometimes I trim off the strings, sometimes I don't, where I just sewed. Oh, you can see the little tiny eyeball just barely peeking in there. I mean, it is so little, that black that we put on there. finger press, flip over. It says number 7's next, but I'm going to fold between the 6 and the 8 to trim off the excess. So I'm going to go to this line, the 6/8 or 7/8 step, foot of the mountain. You can get all your strings up there if you want. Your 1/4 inch. Because it's like, now I go back, I got rid of the bulk. Now I'm going to go back to the line between the 6 and the 7. Fold there. If anything pulls up, just press down and release it. Foot of the mountain. One good way to always think, foot of the mountain. If there's a fold, there's a trim. Open back up, and it says, I've marked it as background. Background is my really light color. It's a very small piece, but it still has to come out to this dotted line right here. This is more than enough. So find the right and the wrong, right sides together. Line up your pieces. It goes beyond both ways with my finger. So I'm going to sew that line to before and off the board at the end. Your lines end up crossing over each other, but at least it's going to be secure. With it down where I just sewed, finger press. Make sure it stays that way. Put it back over here. Now that line I just did the trimming with is where I go back and press to. That line between the 7 and the 8. If anything picks up, just release it a little. Foot of the mountain, a trim. And it's a background piece, and it needs to be at least this big. I can audition pieces, or I can just grab a piece and sew it. We'll do Terry's theme, hunka. I will always be using hunka. Right sides together. Place it to where it lines up. It's more than enough because it's got to cover this up to here. So I'm going to now sew on that line. It's the 7/8 line. Pattern side face down where I just sewed. Hold up, finger press. Make sure you hold them all in the right position. Fabric face down. Turn it to get to the position you need, which is this long line here now. You can put your folding paper up there on that line and see it wants to pull. So I'm going to go ahead and release a few of these, and right here. That way I'm not tugging as hard as I'm trying to fold. Foot of the mountain, and we always trim at the foot of the mountain. One thing about it, my dog bed will get filled faster our Humane Society still takes them here. So make sure, if you think you're going to drop this down, you can put a pin in it, just to make sure you don't drop it down. So now I need a piece of the background that will cover all this right here. So I have this piece left over from the previous one, right sides together. Covers from here to here, there to there. So I'm going to sew that long line from out there, out the dotted line to the dotted line. It looks like a highway intersection. But I'd rather have enough, not enough. Trim the string or threads. Take the right side. I just flip it over where I've just sewed, finger press. That's the last one, so I can actually press this one all together, because I don't need my colors anymore. It's written on the back side. And then when we will now be trimming to the dotted line, and we have, believe it or not, this part of the head. Of course, I have strings everywhere. So this one here, if you look at it, I could go here and have a long one, or I could have here and have a short. So it's just one of those things. It's your call. You know how much fabric you have. So that's my piece of background that I put up. I'll go do this long one. Needs a new blade, but when you're cutting paper, it dulls them so fast. So just a little more pressure. I'm not saving any of those. I'll make sure a dog gets a bed. When we get to the wing part, after my experience yesterday, that's when you have all the layers of the texture of the wing. It is. So that piece is done. So now A and B can go together, and they sit on top of each other just like that. And then when I pick this up, you kind of see where the beak is going to join on the head. So to do that, you take a pin and you put it down here in this corner of B5 and in the corner of A3. Then when you line those up, they fit there nice and pretty, but when you open it, you'll see the beak joins onto the head. I'll have to look to see what that's really called. And then I just line up here, hold firmly. I'm going to start sewing off the edge, follow the line, take the pin out, because it's too small to get everything under the sewing machine. The pins get in the way. You can clip it if you want. I just hold firmly. And so, trim off those strings, open up this. There's there's the bird beak. And you can see it's the opposite of this one. This one here is a good mirror to know where my color placing goes. So that's A and B are done. You can now take these papers off if you want. And then press. And then we will start with part C. Looking to see what my time is up there. Part C. So we're going to put the little head in a safe zone. Don't want to remake it, that's for sure. In my video that I did yesterday that I was off camera for part of it, if you haven't got the butterfly mastered yet, I wouldn't recommend quite yet trying this one because it's got some smaller pieces. So now we're going to find piece number 1. Piece number 1 is that little tiny piece here at the bottom of the wing. And I have that down as my same color as the chest, or this part of the wing, which is my lavender. So I need a little tiny piece of lavender. And it's going to go face side down. It's got to be enough to go out here to that dotted line. And if I hold it up to a light, I can make sure it goes all the way. You can see in the light. It goes all the way. And I'm going to put a pin in this edge over here. That's where I have the extra material. Because I need to fold this little line here. So I need to go so it's out of the way. I just want to make sure it doesn't move. So I need to fold that little tiny line right next to where my pin is. And my pin point is out too far, so just pull it back a little bit. Fold on that line. That's the foot of the mountain. Trim. Now I need the wing color, which I'm using all gray. That gray looks absolutely perfect over here because it's got texture to it, so it gives texture to the leaves or the wings. So here's that piece here. It just has to be enough to go here to here. More than enough. Right sides together. Fold the piece up, so on the little line, this time you're going to go all the way out to the, I'm going out to the dotted line. I'm going to start before. Paper side down, find where I just sewed, finger press, turn it back over, make sure to hold the piece in position, and my next trim is between line 2 and 3, so press your cards with your cardstock or add a quarter ruler, press on that line. I'm going to be using this fabric again, foot of the heel. gray, which I'm using for the feathers. Right sides together. Position it. Now, so on the next line, and we're going to repeat this step for a few more steps. Start before, start after, and after a few steps. If I stop with my needle and heading down into the thing, I don't contract that thread. It's like a, oops, don't need that anymore anyway. Fabric side down, find where you just sewed, finger press, hold it, make sure it stays over, position to my next line I have to press, which is between the 3, 4. I'm at the foot of the heel, 1/4 inch. This is where we're starting the packet. It's being stacked and packed. Well, we will have a fan. You can already see it starting. And then it's the gray again. So there's the piece of gray. You can kind of see through your paper. I need just 1/4 inch on each side of the line. That will work. Go sew that line. Start 2 before it. And go 2 or 3 after it. It's like, I don't know if everybody's aware of how it works. It's like, I did that one on the wrong size material, but I don't think it's going to make any difference because you can still see the texture. So I'm leaving it. It's like, going to go 4 and 5, but once I get done with an hour video, it can take an hour to upload or download. There's download, upload, and processing. It can be 2 to 3 hours to, at my speed of internet, to put in a video. One of these tutorial videos like I'm doing. It can take a while. Okay, now it's right sides together this time. It's like sometimes your material is fine that you can get away with it. And I just happen to be able to get away with it. Gonna go sew 2 stitches before, 2 stitches after. So the people that take the time to record, edit, cut, paste, I don't know how long it takes them. Days to get it perfected. So you are always going to have raw, unedited when it comes to me. Pressing where I just sewed. See, you can't tell that that was even the wrong side of the fabric. Make sure to hold that up in the right position. Now I'm going to, the line between 5 and 6 is where I'm going to fold. So hats off to all those that edit. I would do lives like this. This is kind of a live, one-sided me. It's going to be thicker at that end, so make sure to have the pressure you need, or you'll go back and chop it up. And it's like, I need one more piece. This looks like it will be enough because this little tiny piece and this tiny piece are a different color. So right sides together. Good thing I went back and looked. It goes beyond. It's more than enough. So sewing the line 5 between 5 and 6. I call it the number 5 line. My scissors are on a retract, one of those bungee cord type things. It was from a friend at a casino that she got it, and she gave me one, and then I have 1 or 2. Okay, now between 6 and 7, that line, I'm changing color to the dark purple, but I still have to press the lines. So we're going to go right there on the line, press, because we have quite the fan buildup right there. And it says the dark color, which is, this is my dark color, and it's just a sliver. So I'm going to just make sure it goes above and beyond. Oh, it's like, should I trim that line first? It's like, almost forgot. That's that line. Trim. And that end is, like I said, it's got the layers. I'll show you the layers. It's got this whole fan. So pick 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 11 layers of material right here, right now. That's my 1/4 inch trim. Bring back up my dark. Match it up there. Up. And then I went way beyond. I'm clear out here with the turquoise. I just have to sew 2 before and 2 after. So sew before and sew after. Beyond. Like I said, 2 to 3. These tiny stitches are so tiny. String off. Another string off. Face side down where I sewed. Finger press up. Look, turn it over. I need this dark back over here. So I'm going to fold along that line and do a trim so I can get that piece of fabric for what I need. It's like, so trim 1/4 inch away from the mountain. Because I need that piece. It's going to go right here. So now we just reposition, make sure everything's fine. There's a little release that needs to be right there where I just started beyond it. And I'm going to sew at this number 8, which says it's lavender. Oh, I need the lavender this time. It's like, it's here. I just seen it. It's like, where did, oh, it's on my lap. No wonder I can't find it. There's a whole bunch of little ones here. So, this number 8 is this piece right here, the chest. But see all these layers that we got to trim through now? Make sure to hold your ruler and press firmly. You should see the mess I have to clean up when I'm done. And now I need the lavender, which is right here. And it has to make sure it goes down beyond this end. And I have more than enough. So just back this up, put it on there, lift up, so from the dotted line out and beyond. We end up with all sorts of stitches on top of each other. These scissors hang on a command strip at the other end of my sewing machine. If you're wondering where I'm putting it. Okay, face side down. Yeah, just made a clean cut for the body. I'm going to go ahead and just trim this because I have plenty. Fold this back up and put it where it's supposed to be. Not on my lap. So now I'm supposed to fold on the number 9 line, which we already released because we trimmed. Between the 8 and the 9, foot of the mountain means trim. Sometimes in the backgrounds or different things, like here, you use the same color, but it gives you a texture by your seams. It just makes it look like a real feather. Now I need the dark, and I have to make sure to go beyond here on both ends. This is more than enough. Place it on here to here. As I'm holding it, now I'll go sew this line. Starting at the dotted line. You can feel it going through all those layers. You can feel it. Take that line I just sewed, finger press it, open it back up. That's number 9. So now we have to go to 10. So we're just going to leave that one long. If you want to, you can secure it for now, because we need to do this little piece right here, which is background. So we just make sure we release. You can kind of see through, lay whatever we're pressing with. If it picks up some, just push down right there and it should be fine. Foot of the mountain and trim. Push it off your screen, I hope. And that's background. It's just a teeny tiny piece, so one of these small things I saved should be fine. Or if you didn't save one, because I put it in the garbage, you just, oh, and now I find it, of course. You just have to make sure that you go on both sides of it, but you can see it's right there to right there. So you just want to make sure it goes beyond. Right sides together. Pick up your paper. I'm going to move it down just a little bit more, because there's where it needs to go. So I go clear out there. Needs to go right there. I go clear out here. So go sew that line, two beyond, two before and two beyond. Put ace down where I just sewed, finger press. Hold that in position. Come back over. 10 and 11 is this next little line. So it's just going to be a little bit of detail, but I have to go down here and release here and here and here. So release, you just pull, pull, and if the paper rips a little, don't worry. It's like, I'd rather start with a new one when I try doing the other way of doing FPP. I clip through the paper anyway, because there's a way of stitching right along the foot of the mountain. I'd rather trim, because I don't like sewing right there next to it. That's just me. That's my preference. Now I need a piece that covers here to here, which this piece should, with no problem. Goes out here, because you can see where your mark is. And then I'm just checking to make sure not enough right there. It goes right to there. So I'm going to turn it a little. I'm going to start it right there and go right there. I'm just turning it. I can trim this in a minute, but it goes out and I get to use that piece. So you start two before it. And go a couple after it. Trim your threads. I call them strings, threads, ropes. While it's face down, find where I just sewed. Press it, hold it, turn it over. My next one is the 12, which is between 11 and 12. It's a nice size one. I didn't release them, see here? So you can pull them while you're doing this folding of the line. You can release them. Bottom of the foot of the hill. Trim off. This one I might be able to use someplace else. Who knows? Now we need a piece this big. So I'm not gonna even try to fit it on that 2.5 inch strip. Find the right side. We pick up always a lot of lint as sewers. It's like I don't go any place. I just using the biggest strip I have. It goes beyond, because you can see. I'm going to go sew that line from dotted line to dotted line. Or dash, I should say. It's dashes. It's the trim line anyway. Again, we're going face side down where I just sewed. Finger press. I could do other pressing right now, but it's like I'd lose my colors, even though I think I'm pretty much done with colors. And I'm just going to trim this off to make it shorter. I'm hoping this one all stays in the camera this time. I'm going to move this pin up to here now. Hold that in place. And that's number 12, so now I need 13. So the line 13 here, where it goes closest down to the last sewn line, this is where I'm going to fold. And it's like there's a trim, a release, and a release on that fold. And I've already trimmed there once because I was getting rid of the excess. And this is a background color again. So take this one I have, right sides together. It's going to go from here out to here, which I'm not too worried because I have to trim it anyway. So now I'm going to sew this line here to off to the dash, or dotted or dashed line, whatever we want to call it. I've been calling it the dotted line. Trimming the strings, face side down, where I just sewed. It picked up some threads. We can pick them later. You just finger press. It just made that little detail, that wing, so little. Pick that back up, turn over. You're going to trim on line, fold on line 13, 14. All the way across. It needs a release right here. Pick it back up, make sure. Foot of the mountain. Finger back up, and then this piece has to be out there to there, there to there. And this one's more than enough. So I will pick this back up. I'm gonna leave that little thing hanging on there. It doesn't bother me any. Pick this up. I'm gonna start out there and sew over to here. Dotted dash line to the dotted dash line. Across that line between 13 and 14. Trim. Like a thread cutter would probably cut out some time, but I'm just going to go ahead and trim off this excess because I know it's excess. Turn it over, finger press, And it's all the steps are done. So I'm going to take it over to the iron and make sure that they're open and press. And now with the, I'm going to trim, because that was the final fabric. Of that part C. This one I'm going to keep for now. There are some places that you can use your little ones. And another trim on the big parameter. I'm not going to worry about that piece. And you can, if you want, you can go back and trim with scissors. It's like, because sometimes you can't hold it really steady, but there's always another way. Just make sure all your fabric is laying in the correct position. And here's the wing. You can pick off threads now, you can pick off threads later, but I'll show you with the other one I did earlier. This is the wing, and in reverse. So now you put A, B, C, as long as the alphabet is at the same direction of readable. You can now join these. Put your pin in the lowest point here, and your pin in B down there in that number 4, the lowest point there. Slide them together. Everything lines up. I have that little bit of extra there. It's like no biggie. I just left it a little long right there. If you want, you can put a pin here and see if your points line up. I can see by looking that mine do. Hold it tight. Go so off the fabric all the way through. Join the pieces. As soon as I get it started, then I remove the pin, hold firmly. Off the end. Make sure my needle's in the down position, then my thread won't jump back. So now we are going to open up and look at our hummingbird. Hummingbird 1, hummingbird 2. Isn't that pretty? We'll see what our time is on the camera. Or 1 hour 9. So I'm going to continue on. I don't have pause, so I'm going to take some of the paper out, because I'm not that high technique. I'm not a techie. Because your point will still be there even when you take the paper out. It just makes it a little easier to handle when you go to join them. So I'm going to press this Give it a little spritz of water. It just helps relax it. I don't use a steam iron. I've had too many irons quit. Do a little station cleanup. There's the 2 different butterflies, or hummingbirds so far. Like on this one here, it's barely connected, just like this one's barely connected. But it'll join together in the next seam. So grab alphabetically, A, B, C, D. That's F. There's D. And my D, it has 2 colors. I'm going to put the lavender and the background. The lavender is the first one. So you just have to make sure you have a piece big enough that covers, you know, all the pieces. So I'm going to cut out here. Use a piece that is a little bit bigger than needed. Because I just want to make sure it covers and I have something to hold. So I'm putting a pin. Because I have to still fold, even though it's only 2 pieces. You have to fold your line, your paper over. Right side's away from you, because this is the side you're going to see. Trim your quarter. Now I'm going to watch this one before I start downloading and posting, because if I need to, I'll make another hummingbird. So now I need a background piece that's going to cover all of this. This is enough. So just hold your piece there. And you just have to make sure it starts down here to cover this end, and more than enough to go up to this end. You can see that. So I'm going to start at the dotted dash line. I'm going to end at the dotted dash line. One of the easiest pieces today. I haven't looked ahead to see. Maybe we did all the complicated pieces. Who knows? Same thing, face down, find where we just sewed, finger press. Means there's only 2 pieces. I'm going to press really fast with the iron. And then we trim. And so I'm going to trim this long line, and it's only wasting this much. Make sure the pin is out of the zone. Trim. Move that out of the way. Trim. Move my pin over to this bigger piece that I've trimmed 2 sides on. Make sure all the pieces are laying out open. Just trimming up some of my mess. The ruler moved, but I'm not too worried. because you can always go back and trim. Anything you want. And then this tip, I always do freehand. So set that one aside so you don't lose it. Now, after D comes E. Oh, E's got a lot of color in it. Number 1 is lavender. Number 2 is lavender. Number 3 is the dark. So I need a lavender that covers this right here. Put this piece on, audition it. Beyond it, there. So I should be able to cut right here. Put a pin. Take that one out for right now. So because I need that open, so I'll go right here to hold it. Because our next line is right here. I'm going to fold that line. We need the same color. We're just making the texture of a wing. That's all we're doing. Is texturing a wing. Foot of the mountain. Trim. And that's a little bit too sharp. So I'm not too worried. I have more of that. This is more than enough, and that's more than enough. You can see it goes beyond and beyond. So I'm just going to line it up where I can kind of see where the line's going. And going to sew. The first line on this one, start at the dotted dash line. A couple stitches beyond. Flip it over, finger press it. And now line 2 to 3 goes to the dark. Like, was there any dark left? Nope. Just get another piece. At least I don't see it. So now I press between 2 and 3. Foot of the mountain. Do the 1/4 inch trim. It goes from the dotted dash line beyond. So I should be able to just line it up right there. So the next line. And then it's going to go all to background colors again. Start at the dash. And we got one of the weirdest pieces coming up here pretty soon. I said, this is unrehearsed, I did not look at the pattern before. I did the head and wing of that one. But it's like, that was last night. Press and fold. Okay. 1, 2, 3. 3 and 4 is right here. So I'm going to fold at the line between 4 and 6 to trim off the excess. Just to get it out of the way. And again, foot of the mountain. I can trim it at the 1/4 or I can trim it at excessive. But it's just one of those things. Because the line 4 that I need to fold on actually goes this way, not this way. So, and it's all background pieces. And as I pick that up, it picks up, pop those stitches, trim this. Try to keep my ruler at the correct way. Keep trying to figure out how to get better camera shots. It's like, my hand's always going to be in the way. And this new stand, I need to get a piece of plywood so it can come over this other side. As I'm sitting here thinking of all the things I could do, I need a background to cover this little sliver. So I'm going to take this background, right sides facing each other, fold that piece back down, because it should have more than enough. But I'm going to do that finger audition. Nope, wrong direction. Because when it needs to go that way, you need it to go audition this one. This one almost, if I move it down. There. So open it back up, get my quarter lined. So that little tiny stretch before and after. Because this little tiny piece is going to be covered up with 2 bigger pieces. Trim some string. Face side down. Take and press with your finger where you just sewed. Carefully flip it back over to the fabric side down. And now I need number 5, because we just did 4. Number 5 is a longer one. And when you put your card up there, you'll see that you have a couple stitches you probably need to release. So I'm going to just quickly release those. Make sure everything sits back down correctly. Put your cardboard back over. Press. Needed one more stitch. There. Popped it. Foot of the mountain. And trim. And this one needs a bigger piece. I'm not going to fiddle. Right sides together. I'm just taking a big long piece because that's what I have. I'm going to sew along that line. Start at the dotted dash out there and finish at the dotted dash. Right sides down. You see, I didn't trim the strings. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. Flip it back over. And then I need to trim. So I'm going to trim at this dotted line. All the way up over. Turn, trim off this excess. And I have one more piece. We just did 5. So now we're going to do 6. So now we need to fold at that line. Release this stitch right here. Fold on that 6 again, because we did it once to trim off excess. trim at the foot of the mountain, which the only thing we have to trim is what we just put on there. And we need to take right sides together. It just needs to be enough to go up and cover this, which you can see there's more than enough. So I'm going to sew from this dashed line off to the other dashed line. It's called aiming for your line. And if you're not a good aimer, just pencil line it in there. No one's going to see it because the paper all gets removed. Turn it over, finger press. This is the first time for doing this part of the wing. That's his little tail feathers, I think. I'm not sure. Trim again. Oh, I can press it this time. Move all those pieces back up out of the way. Now I can trim at the dot dash line. There's a little bulk up here. Just press a little harder. That's what you gotta do. Trim here. And this one here. Just do a freehand trim. This one here. Freehand and freehand. If I'm a little beyond, no big deal. So this is D. This is E. So this, does this go onto here? I think it does. But it's like, because the letters all have to stay the same. It's like, might have to look at that. D, E, F. Because this one, oh, I think we have to do E, F together. And then maybe put the D on. Yes, because it's like, we have a little zigzag here in the previous one. So we might have to put D actually over here, is what I'm thinking. A, B, C. I think D has to be sewn onto here first, is what I'm looking. And let me see. A to B, B to C, C to D. Okay, that's what we have to do. So we can go ahead and sew this one onto the C. And so that pin will go in this point. And then it goes down into the point of here, down under our seam here. Right there. And it turns. It's like right there. And this is what it says we're supposed to be doing. Oh, we're supposed to join the CD unit first before. So we're going to just release right here a few stitches. So we can do that. It's like, at least this one come with some instructions. If somebody would read them. And we all tend to do that. It's like the butterflies was a, I don't think there was any assembly instructions. because they want that seam to be wrapped a certain way. And that C, I have it open more than enough. I can just fold that down there. Take this one now, put it in that corner because the paper's missing. Okay, there's that corner. There to there, there to there. So I'm going to go ahead, hold on firmly, and sew this on. Finagling that out of my way. I'm going to leave the pin in right now. So I can get the needle positioned. So towards the pin, take the pin out, reposition A and C, or C to D. Needle down. Make sure that paper likes walking. Paper does like to walk. Open this back up. Look at the picture. They are off a little to each other. Then I go back and sew this down. It's not much to sew. There's the bird back together. Now it says I have to sew E and F, so I guess I better finish F, because this guy hooks on down here. Someplace in here. Because this piece and this piece will sew this, because this has a straight line. Makes sense now. But I could have saved a step if I'd just look. And the wing and the body can be, it's like, doesn't show if it lines up perfectly, because this is probably a pinpoint. But we'll see. So now we're going to do F. And number 1 is a background. Number 2 is that little teeny tiny piece of black. And I probably threw out the black again, because I always look at it, it's a tiny piece. Who needs it? But we need beak, or the eyeball, and the foot are just teeny tiny. So I have piece number 2 ready. Piece number 1 is just a small background. So right side's down. Make sure it covers all of where number 1 is, which is right here. I'm going to put a little pin in it. And we have to press that little tiny line right there. Got to press the paper back. Number 2 is a little tiny piece of black, which is, I think, his foot. Oh, did somebody trim at the foot of the mountain? No, she didn't. So, this little piece lines up with this piece. So I'm going to sew that little tiny line. Two before and 2 after. So like 7 stitches is about what it is. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8. They're that tiny of a stitch and a 1/2 inch. Now that piece where I just sewed is finger pressed over. Number 3, because we just did 1, 2. 3 is this big one that I'm putting pink. Okay, I'm going to move this pin here to here, holding both those little pieces, because I need this line right here between the 2 and the 3. Press this over here. Get a small piece of the pink, not the purple, the pink, which is a piece that's left over from somebody else's quilt that was also used on Ella. And everybody knows who Ella is that knows me. So trim at the foot of the mountain. Ella is a Violet Craft foundation paper pieced elephant done in purples. One day I'm going to send Ella on a trip to, I think it's New York, so she can go get a few pictures. I have to discuss it with the person on that end. It's like the paper fabric moved just a little tiny bit. Reposition it. Because it's like, she's never been to New York, and I've always wanted to go to New York. So why can't Ella go to New York? It's like, she might like it. Who knows? Fold the pieces back. Check to see where number 4 is. And my number 4 says it's going to be gray. This is the last that this pink's going to be used, so I'm going to trim out to the dotted line. Just remove the excess. And you can see my pink has a different color on the end because it was used on a, I think it was a Lone Star. I'm not worried about trimming there yet. But now I need line number 4. So reposition the pin so it's not in the way of folding the paper on line 4. Foot of the hill, trim. And it says I need gray. I don't think I have any small chunks of gray out there. So I'll just whack a piece off. That's a new phrase, whack a piece. I probably do have one out here, just can't see it. That's my background. Because it's like, this gray is just a little tiny piece. So, put the gray right sides together. Make sure you go over your imaginary line here. Open this back up. Sew on that line to before and out to the dashed line. You guys are going to be all confused. Is it a dotted line or is it a dashed line? It's dashed. but it's just me. I started calling it a dot line, so that's what I call it. Turn it over where I just sewed, finger press. Turn it back over, make sure that piece stays over. Now it says line 5 is this way, but it's like I can trim that. Between the 4, 5. Make sure that I'm still in camera. 4, 4 and 5. The pin has to come out. The 4 or 5 line. It's got some stitches. Let's see if they release. We can pop them, open up, yep, on the line. That's the foot of the hill. And that's a background, and that's a background. So I just had my background. I just tucked it somewhere. Don't need the gray anymore. Guess I'll grab a piece of background from behind me because I'm not seeing where I just moved it to. Oh, maybe I found it. There's this one that I'm going to show you that technique again. This one here. It's right side of the fabric. Make sure everything's in the correct position here. So I'm going to put a pin holding this one. Because this is 6, this is 5. This is that unusual facing one. Well, I put it here, and then I mark here. And you can mark it with just a... And then when you put the right sides together, you can kind of see your line through your, with your light. If you line that line up to your 1/4 inch, and then sit it down, open it back up, and you know what I call the pin sew. To make sure it's going to work. And it looks like it's going to, because when this angle is here, this material needs to be pointing that way. So if I take and just press this over with my finger, it's going to cover all of it that I need. I have more than enough over there, and I have more than enough to join out to this line right here. So I can start sewing it by just taking it up there, position it, put the pins in, get the needle in, take one of the pins out, head across your line. Get up to your next pin, take it out. 2 stitches beyond. So this is where your piece down, finger press, turn back over, and I'm just going to trim it right off there at the dotted line. See, there I went again, dotted dash. It's like, I don't know what kind of line I have. It's a line. So hold that down there. Okay, open that I just trimmed. Go back here to this line where I had that angle. I'd rather go back and trim this off than not have enough. Open that back up. See that little tiny bird foot? Not much. Now I need this bigger piece. Let's see if this is enough. It's not. So I have to grab a chunk. It's right behind me. I need more of the background. It's wrapped around the cardboard of one that needs to be finished. But I still have plenty. Keep that up there. Clear this out a ways. Because I need to cut. Oh, I have a ruler right here. I just need to cut more than enough. Make sure nothing's under there that's important. And wrap that back around that. It's a butterfly to finish with Kathy. And did I make it wider? A little bit, but I'll make it longer this way. So I will audition a piece. I need to have it be at least out here. So let's go ahead and just hunk of fabric it, huh, Terry? Put this piece back right side up. Take this piece, fold on the line number between 5, 6. Trim at the foot of the mountain. More garbage. Put that piece right side up. Means I need it more at this end because this is where the paper is. You can kind of see that I need this much. So it's all lined up. Pick it up. If you're not sure if you can pick it up, pin it. Start at the dash line. So all the way across that line to the other dash line. Trim that string. Don't necessarily have to trim them all because we're going to do flip it over, finger press. It's the last piece we need. I'm going to go press it. Come trim back. You see I have more than enough. Trim across this dotted dash line. Do it twice because I heard it not connect on one of them. Do all the trimming now. Neighbor's dog having a conniption fit. Don't know what about. She's like garbage man, mailman, UPS, you know, that type things. Trim off this last edge. I just got to thinking, might be off camera. There's a little tiny edge there. And this point up here. Now the pattern says we can join F and E, and they join right here. So I'm going to put it at the point up here, but they say there's a little picture that has some circles. They say down here, and I think right here. Could take time to read it, but it's like trying to go by that little picturesque glance I had. Now that lines them up, so I'm going to sew off the edge, down and off the edge. I leave the pin in until I absolutely have to take it out. Didn't put my needle in the down position. Wanted to take thread, hold, when you go to take your pin out, hold firmly. Okay, needle going in the down position. If I just get used to doing that, it would make it a lot easier. Now when you open this up, there's the bird's little foot, his chest, the bottom of his wing, extra strings, which we all know, no biggie. So now we have to take this one and join these two. Let's take a glance at those little circles I was talking about. Right here, there's some little circles. I guess those are notes and tips of where to pin. So it's like they say in this tail, right here is a pin point. And then up here, this is a pin point. So that pin point goes to right here, I guess. That's what it's showing. And the other end pinpoint is right here at the bottom of number 3. So it's like, and when you press those in there, look, they line up. So before I do that, press the pin all the way through. Go release some of this paper I just sewed together to make it easier for sewing through. We don't need all those layers. Would have been easier to do this before I put the pins in, but I just thought I would take everybody on a journey with me to look at the instructions. How weird. I guess that's what they put, tips and tricks. Because evidently, this one was a little trickier than the butterfly. Which, I can tell you, yes it is. It's like my friends that are just new to foundation paper piecing. I would say not quite yet for the hummingbird. Make sure all your pieces are up and you're holding tight. You can start the sewing. Move this out of the way. Take my pin out. Turn it sideways because I don't want to take it out quite yet. The sewing on paper has a tendency to want to just sit there and go nowhere. It's like there's no tip on which way to press or sew or which way to put the seams. I'll have to see if that's in there later. It could be. It's like, who knows? Get that positioned. Lay the needle down, or the pin down. So up and over. As I get close, then I take that pin out. And we're going to, the big reveal. Do we have a hummingbird? Of course, we're going to have a hummingbird. I didn't make anything else. Let's press that down. Get that paper to release. Going to take it over to the iron. Give it a spritz of water on that seam we just put. It just helps the fabric lay down and at ease more easily. And let's see. There is the butterfly. Or the butterfly, hummingbird. There is the first. And then you have to trim it all down to 5 inches. But there's that little tiny eye, that little teeny tiny foot, those points added up. I like it. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. And thumbs up, like, subscribe, and share. See you later.